I just had a great conversation with my friend Heather Rogers. She and I know each other through a CEO mastermind group here in the Atlanta, Georgia area, and she's got a great organizing business. We just talked about how she started business, how she got into business from medical sales, some tips and tricks she's learned along the way. So I'm very excited for you to hear my conversation with my friend Heather. Welcome to Market Mavericks. I'm Matthew Eford. Join me as I speak with leaders who are redefining industries in every corner of the market. From startups to established businesses, we'll uncover the strategies, challenges, and insights that drive success. Get ready to be inspired by the Mavericks who are shaping the future of business. Welcome, everybody, to Market Mavericks. I have my friend Heather Rogers here. She and I met through our CEO Mastermind group here in the Atlanta, Georgia area, the Institute for Entrepreneurship. And Heather owns an organizing business. And I'm so excited, Heather, to have you on. For those of us who may not know you, tell us about yourself, the business that you have, and what role you play in it.
Thank you for having me on, Matthew. I'm so excited that you're doing this. So I started Simply Organized about 14 years ago. I had
Okay.
been in medical sales primarily before that. I always knew I wanted to own my own business, but I had no idea what kind of a business I wanted to own.
Sure.
My dad has his own business. Both my brothers have their own businesses. They thought I was insane for leaving a very well paying, secure medical sales job.
Sure.
But I was like, hey, it's 2008. We're in a recession. Why not?
Why
Let's just
not?
do
It's
it.
a great time.
Yeah. So I hired a friend of mine is a counselor, and she said, oh, well, have you ever thought about talking to a career counselor? And I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
Okay.
So I met with Debbie and we had several sessions, and it was the coolest thing. She just played games with me
Okay. I like
and
games.
asked a lot of questions and got me out of my own over analytical brain because
Okay.
I can talk myself into or out of anything
Sure.
very easily. And so all of the answers at the end of that was you should be a professional organizer. And I'm like,
Wow.
great. What the heck is a professional organizer?
So let me ask you a question there. Did you see any of that in you see anything in yourself in your medical sales? Were you doing anything that you're having to be very organized in that? Was there anything that you saw in that?
No. And if you ask my mother, she'd say I was a messy child with a messy room. She was very organized. She was a
Okay.
purger. It didn't hit me until I got to college how much my mom was doing for us around the house.
Okay.
And then I realized, if I don't pick it up,
Yeah.
it's going to stay on the
It's gonna
floor.
stay there. Oh, if I don't do laundry, I don't have clean clothes. Oh, if I don't get new groceries, the fridge runs out. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
The
The
all the
most
epiphanies you have.
important, the most important things we learned at the University of Georgia.
That's right. Go dogs. Yeah, it is a humbling experience
Yeah,
going
it
out on your
wasn't
own.
wasn't my classes. It wasn't my classes. So the school of life, as they
That's
call
right.
it.
So
So
what it
yeah, I knew Oprah Winfrey had a professional organizer.
okay,
His name is Peter Walsh, and he's an Australian. He used to have this show called Clean Sweep,
okay,
which is a really cool show. So I emailed him, and he or someone from his team emailed me back
okay.
and said, well, I'm kind of busy with the Oprah television network right now, but you should go join NAPO. What the heck is
Yeah,
NAPO?
well, what is NAPO?
National Association of Professional Organizers, of course.
Of course.
Just like I'm sure there is a lighting organization,
There
a
are. There's many.
mosquito
Yes.
organization,
Yes.
right? So there's
Yeah.
always a group, a gathering. So I went to one of their meetings. I hired someone to mentor me. I read every book and listened to every CD at the time that I could get my hands on, and started assisting other organizers while I kept my full-time medical sales job. So I kept it for 2 years while I was too scared
Okay. Okay.
to not have a salary. I sold my car. I drove my husband's utility van. I wanted to save as much money as possible in case I
Sure.
didn't make a dime that first year. And after 2 years of doing it and getting a website and some business cards, somebody I hired as a coach pushed me off the cliff. She was like, "What are you waiting for? You're ready.
I
You're
love that.
ready."
Yeah.
Yeah. So it from the first day I went to help a client with another organizer, I was like, I cannot believe people pay you for this
Wow.
because most organizers will tell you this is just common sense to us. We're
Sure.
born this way.
Yeah.
I don't have many other gifts or strengths or artistic abilities at all, but I didn't know that this was something I could do, and it's just easy for me.
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so funny when Hannah and I got married, she was organizing around the house, and I was like, "Why are you doing that?" She's like, "Well, this is the way we're going to do it." I was like, "Okay," and then I kind of looked at it, I was like, "Oh, that actually makes really good sense." Like I would
Good.
have never done that. I would
Yeah.
have just stacked them up and been fine.
Yeah.
But she has one of those brains too, so I love that you had that.
Yeah.
And I
And
also love
most married couples are opposite when it comes to that, by the way, and it makes for a great balance in the marriage. So
yes.
my husband, we'll call him a saver.
Okay.
I'm a purger.
Okay.
And yeah, he's a B type, I'm an A type, so
Yeah.
it works for most couples, but when it comes to the stuff and finding the stuff or making piles, it usually is some compromise that
Yeah.
needs.
Oh yeah. That
Yes.
the compromise is very important. So
Yes.
let me dig in a little bit on the you kept your job for 2 years. We've
Yeah.
had some other guests on that did the same thing, and they leverage their time. So
Mhm.
talk to me, how did you manage that time? So somebody who's listening to this, they say, "Hey, I've got a great job. I've got a little flexibility in my job. I'm wanting to start maybe a side hustle that could be a permanent thing." Talk us through good, the bad, the ugly. What did you learn, and what advice would you have in those couple of years?
Yeah, so I would say at my core, my work ethic is like my whole family. It's been such an important feature in our souls and our personalities. And
Okay,
so um I made sure that I was still doing my full-time, well-paying gig full time.
okay,
And then I would work with clients on nights and weekends.
okay,
And so I did that. That's how I managed my time. When I first started, I was single and had just met my husband. So I didn't have a lot of other time commitments that I had to
sure,
worry about. I had a black lab and me and a house. So that enabled me to have a little bit more free time than
sure,
some people might have. Um, but I will tell you the bad part of that for me, and I didn't realize it until I quit the job and
okay,
went full time into organizing. Um, I am not good at doing more than one job at a time.
yeah,
I didn't have enough focus. I'm not going to say time. I
sure,
probably had plenty of time.
yeah,
Couldn't focus on both well, So even if you're a good multitasker, which most people aren't, it's almost like I had to quit the thing that was giving me a paycheck in order to really focus on, okay, what do I want to do with this business?
sure,
I could do a job here and there for clients, but I couldn't really grow the business, market the business,
yeah,
do any of the things that you really need to do, I think,
sure,
to run a business. It's
yeah,
it's very hard when there's more than one thing pulling at you, and you're an entrepreneur. You understand this. Most of us entrepreneurs like to have more than one thing going on at a time.
oh yeah. Hence
It's
the
like the
podcast. Yeah,
shiny, the
yeah,
shiny object, like, ooh, maybe I'll do that business and maybe I'll do that business. And because I was very comfortable with selling products, I remember that when I first joined NAPO, I joined as what we call a business partner instead of an organizer. and I was selling 31 bags.
Okay.
So it was almost like even not allowing myself to
Sure.
fully
Sure.
be a professional organizer. Like, oh, well, I still have to be in sales.
Yeah.
So I'm going to sell these organizing supplies to this group of organizers.
Well,
So like these little baby steps into
sure.
admitting, no, I'm a professional organizer. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And there's something to be said about jumping in with both feet, right? That when you finally go off the cliff, you're either going to fly or you're going to hit real, real hard. And there are going to be times that you hit hard, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I do like the idea of the side hustle, especially as an entrepreneur. We love to have multiple things going on. We love to overinflate our ability to uh, delegate or to multitask, which is a joke. Can't really do that. Not with any kind of clarity and focus. There's
yeah,
so much research that's going on about that. That it's better to do one thing at a time. That you're more efficient. That you're more productive. That you're more effective in doing that role, and then stop and do something else. But I love that you took some steps there, right? That maybe it works better for your personality to say, "Hey, I'm going to do my 9 to 5, and then I'm going to work around there." Instead of just saying, "You know what? I've got a 9 to 5. I'm just not going to do anything. It's not in my cards." You said,
right,
"No, I'm going to spend some time, and I've got flexibility in my personal schedule that I can do
mhm,
things at night and the weekends. That my job doesn't require that of me."
right,
And then when you stepped into your role, you leverage what you knew, right? Professional organizing was not something you knew at the time, but
right,
you knew selling. And so
right.
this was another step in that direction of getting you to where you are now. So talk to us. I love to hear somebody when they make a pivot, right?
Right.
It's a great experience for me because we've
Yeah.
made several. What is a pivot that you've made in your business outside of going from selling bags to now actually doing professional organizing? What's
So
kind of a path that
many, so many pivots, Matthew. The first one that comes to mind is when I went from just me to hiring help.
Okay. Tell me about that.
And um, I'm a little slow on the uptake because I had assisted other organizers, but after just me 2 or 3 years into it, I had enough business where I asked one of the OG organizers in my NAPO group, how do you clone yourself? Was my
Yeah.
question to her. And she goes, you get an assistant. You get another organizer to assist you. And I went, duh. I used
Yeah.
to do that for other
Yeah.
people. Why didn't
Yeah.
I think of that? So I don't think I ever saw myself as an employer. I never saw myself as a manager
Okay.
or a leader. And so that was again kind of baby steps into that world too. At first I just asked the other organizers in my group, "Hey, can somebody help me with this larger job?"
Sure.
And now that I have a team of 12, I tell them I used to pack and unpack houses by myself.
Yeah. You
I
can do
honest
this
to
work. I
God
know.
have no
I know you
idea
can.
how.
Yeah.
I don't know how I did it, but I guess you just do what you need to do when you
Sure.
need to do it. But that was a huge pivot for me was, oh, I can hire help. That's amazing. And then another one of my wonderful colleagues in NAPO, which it's a unique organization because we're all competing with each other,
Sure.
but we're all very supportive and helpful of each other. I
Yeah.
don't know how it works, but it does. And so another one said, why are you charging two different rates? One rate for yourself and one rate for your assistant. Your clients have no idea
Sure.
how much experience any of you have,
Yeah.
and you could actually make some money if you would charge the same amount.
Sure.
Again, duh. So yeah, I mean, I think there were just a lot of, I don't know if that's a pivot or a learning moment or what, but
Yeah.
once
No.
I started hiring people, I never went back
Yeah.
to just me.
Yeah. That's great. And it's definitely there's so much value in community, right? That's the CEO group that we've been a part of.
Yes.
Just the organizations that you're a part of. Be involved if you have an organization, especially has a specialty. I can almost promise you there is some kind of organization, a national organization out there. They have them for Christmas light installers. Okay. So if
Yes.
we can get it as niche down as just Christmas lights, not even outdoor lighting, they have a
Yep.
Christmas light installer professional association. I've spoken at
Yeah.
it. It's a great organization. Those who are in the Christmas lights business, look up Clippa. But
Flippa.
there's so much value that you can find in those meetings
Yeah.
because somebody can say something as simple as, well, just hire somebody. You're like, well, duh, I need to hire
Yeah.
someone. Well, of
Well,
course I
and
do.
also
Or,
you you have resources, you don't feel like you're by
yeah,
yourself. I think
yeah,
so often what I didn't realize going into this is how alone I was going to feel. Like I am the only business owner on the planet. I am the
sure.
only professional organizer in the world. And so when you get around other people, it's just like, oh, you too? That makes me feel so much better,
Yeah,
Or, hey, do you know somebody who makes a t-shirt quilt?
sure,
Whatever kind of resources. But even if there's not an organization, you can also find a lot of that through networking.
sure.
And another pivot I made when I first started the business full force, I thought all I was going to do is help seniors downsize into assisted and independent living.
Okay,
That was my primary focus. And so I went to senior networking groups. Of course, they have groups of people who work with
sure,
seniors who meet every week and every month. And I met so many wonderful people and resources, and we're all trying to help the same group of people. So I think even if whoever's watching this can't find a national or a local organization, they might be able to find a group that meets that at least does the same kind of thing that they
sure.
want to.
The same target market. Who's your
Yeah, you
customer
just
avatar?
Google,
Yeah,
like,
just find
I want to
that
work
group.
with only moms with kids under 4. I mean,
Yeah.
there's 1,000 groups out there like
Oh yeah,
that.
yeah.
So,
Social media groups, in-person groups.
yep,
That's a fantastic idea. So
yep.
you've built a team now that you've gotten past yourself. What advice would you have to someone in team building and kind of building out your team? What have you found has been successful and maybe even flopped for you?
So I did not think, because I had never managed a staff before, I didn't think that I had the skills to do it. I didn't
Okay,
trust myself to do that. So I hired, we called her an operations manager, but she wound up being like an everything manager. And she had managed staff for years. And I found out later she did not want to manage the staff.
okay.
I hired her as the operations manager.
That's
So
a
I
that's a
have
bad
learned
position
over
for
the
her to be
years,
in.
really have to listen to what people are telling you and say, look, just because I've done this a lot and I have the skill sets and it's a strength of mine doesn't mean that's what I want to do again.
Sure.
She didn't do a bad job at it. She did a great job at it, but I burnt her out
Yeah.
and she left.
Yeah.
Because not only was she managing the staff, she was doing everything else for the company, the invoicing and the follow up and supply ordering and all those other things.
Sure.
So, I learned that, and in the last year that she's been gone, I've learned that I'm a great manager
Nice.
and my team loves me, and I have a different management style that's based on how I like to be managed,
Sure.
which is as far away from micromanagement as possible.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that was one of those like happy happy mistakes, happy accidents. I mean, I think there's the only way to learn is to just
Sure.
constantly make mistakes and fall
Yeah.
on your face. But yeah, that was a big huge one. I was almost, I don't want to say scared. I was resistant to training them. I was resistant to having monthly meetings with them. and it was actually somebody who came to speak to us in the Institute group, the CEO
Nice.
group,
Yeah.
an HR person who's talked about how not everybody is working for you for the money. And what other things can you do to make your work environment somewhere where they want to keep coming to? And it was community and monthly meetings.
I love that.
And I have a staff of independent contractors. So I was like, I don't even know if I'm allowed to do this. So I made it voluntary and I said, hey, if you guys want to come, we're going to talk and learn and share. And it's been fantastic.
Love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that you have distinguished that. I mean, there's definitely a lot of nuance between W-2 and
Mhm.
1099 independent contractors. For the non-business owners, can be a giant distinction depending on what you require of them or not. That's why she's
Yeah.
saying she's making that optional. Just to clarify, if the IRS is listening or
Oh my
anybody like that,
gosh.
it is optional, but it is a great opportunity for you to invest in your team,
Yeah.
folks that want to be there. So I love that. So
Well,
you
and
kind of
we're
go ahead.
working, this career is weird. We're going into a different person's home every day.
Yeah,
So it's not like an office environment. It's not a typical thing. And a lot of times the organizers are working by themselves. So the
sure.
only community they have might be with the client, who's usually a stranger when we meet them. So I just wanted them to have that option,
It's great to have community. I mean,
right?
there's so much resource, there's so much research around
Yes.
the I believe the Bible teaches that we're not meant to do life alone, right? That we're meant to be in community. That iron
Yeah.
sharpens iron, so as one man sharpens another. He who walks with wise becomes wise, but pending fool suffers harm. There's all this research about that we're
Yes.
better on teams, we're better together. So I love that you're creating that environment. You've kind of hinted at a couple of mistakes that you've made. Tell me another one. We love to learn about
How
mistakes.
how
And
long do you have, Matthew?
give me one. Give me one, and
Wow.
let's talk about a mistake that you've made that would be impactful to our audience.
Okay. So I recently experienced last year for the first time in 14 years a client not paying me.
Okay, tell me more.
So the lesson in that was get a deposit,
Yeah,
get paid before you leave. Because I had her sign contracts, I had her pay a deposit, but then I had to get attorneys involved and the police. It's a pretty big, horrible nightmare.
I hate
And
that.
of course, you just don't think anybody's ever going to do that to you, especially
Sure.
when they're ecstatic about the work you've done for them.
Yeah.
We did nothing wrong. We left. She was calling us angels, angels and magicians, and
it,
then
yeah.
just refused to pay.
It
So
is
that was,
amazing how people will treat. There's some kind of disassociation that someone has with a business that especially with us with doing outdoor lighting, we don't run into it a ton, but we definitely run into it where we're come out, we're doing a great job. The house looks incredible. That they had a great party. The architectural lighting, the landscape lighting looks great. The permanent Christmas lights look incredible. They're just so excited, and then we leave, and now we're no longer a face. We're a company, and a
yeah,
company is real easy to be aggressive with. It's real easy to be
yeah,
disrespectful to. You give them separation between you and them. Most people are pretty reasonable when you talk to them face to face, but then they get on text message, they get on email, and they're like, I'm just not going to pay. Like, okay, do you mean come take it back? So for you, it's like, do you want me to come disorganize it all? Do you want me to come unmove you? Do you mean unpack
yeah,
it, take it somewhere
yeah,
else? Unfortunately, I think that's
yeah,
a very wise, practical thing that everybody can hear, especially
yeah,
in the service-based industry. If
yeah.
you're doing jobs, collect a deposit. You've got
Collect a
to.
deposit, have a cancellation policy
Yep.
that you use. I mean, I went for years just forgiving. Just, it's fine. Don't worry about it. We lost so much time and money.
Yeah.
So every time I would just update. update the contract, update the deposit, update our rules. We used to have a 24-hour cancellation policy. Now it's a 48-hour cancellation policy. We now have them initial next to all the most important things in our contract, so they can't just say they didn't read it.
Sure.
And I hate all this, by the way. I am not a litigious person. I just want to help people.
Sure.
But if you want to stay in business, there's an unfortunate legality to it that if you want to be a real business, and one of my colleagues who owns an organizing business said this very early on when we were mentoring other organizers.
Okay.
He said, if you're not willing to pay for liability insurance, don't even go into business. It's part of running a
Yeah,
business.
that's a
Like,
great point.
you are a real business. And if you're not just doing this as a hobby, get everything done properly.
Yeah.
Get your corporation set up, LLC or S corp or whatever you decide to do. Get a CPA, get a bookkeeper. Really, you don't have to spend a ton of money. And I think I learned that along the way too. I thought, oh my gosh, getting a bookkeeper, that's going to cost hundreds, thousands of dollars.
Sure.
Very affordable. And if it's not your strength, which bookkeeping is not my strength, like, there are people out there who can help you, and it's worth every penny, and it's affordable,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing with getting a proper contract, getting insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're really going to be a real business, it's not enough to get a business card and a website. And every time somebody comes to an APO meeting and they're brand new, I'm just starting my organizing business. I tell them the same thing. You have to actually let people know you exist.
Yeah.
You have to put those business cards in people's hands. You have to get the website into, like, you can't just have it printed and expect for the
It's not a field of dreams. If you build it, they will
No.
come. So
No, it's
that's
really
no.
not. And
Yeah.
also, um, if all you want to do is the thing that your business is, if all you want to do is organize, you shouldn't start an organizing business.
Yeah. That's a great point. Michael
Because you're
Gerber.
not going to do organizing at least 50% of the
Yeah.
time.
Michael Gerber's got a great book, E-Myth Revisited, and he talks about that very principle that so many business owners, they are very proficient at the craft that they're doing. And they say, well, I'm just going to do this by myself. And then they get into that and they realize all of the million other things that you have to do that prevent you from doing the very thing that you like to do. So someone who's listening to this, if you just like to do one thing, there's nothing wrong with that. Just
No.
do that really well. And you
Yeah.
can get paid really well to do that. There's no reason you
Absolutely.
have to go start a business and get that going. Even though I'm very passionate about business ownership, I encourage business ownership. There's definitely a caveat there to say, hey, if this is all you want to do, then that's probably not what you need to do into business ownership. But let me take a side step there. The contract piece.
Mhm.
To me, a good contract, all it's doing is it's clarifying the relationship up front.
Mhm.
That's the way I say that.
Yeah.
It's clarifying what the expectations are of both parties involved. That's all it does.
Yeah.
A good contract,
Yeah.
not a sketchy one, not one that you wrote yourself,
Right.
not one that you found on the internet.
Right.
This is one that you've worked with legal counsel, that you've gone through, that you've gotten vetted, that you know this is the right way for us to do this, and it clearly sets the expectations. This is what I'm going to do as a company. This is what you're going to do as the customer. If one of us breaks the trust between the two of us, we now have a very clearly defined expectation of what to do. Instead of, hey, we're just going to do work together. Heather, I'm going to call you. You tell me it's $5,000 to move my house. Great, come. And then my expectation of what that looks like and your expectation of what that looks like is very different. And
Yes.
so then my unmet expectations make me upset. So then I'm not going to refer you business. I'm going to leave you a bad review. I may not pay you. All of the difficulties that small business owners run into, if you just would clarify on the front end. You can do that through your contract. You can do that through your vetting process. You can do that on your website. There's all these tips that you can do in getting somebody in and getting them vetted. But being able to make sure you clarify that and then get them to sign it. Don't just send it to them and say, oh, they'll sign it whenever we get the work done. Nope, they won't. Get it
Yeah.
signed. I definitely think deposit's very important. That's what we do. You can't get on our schedule until you pay a deposit.
Yeah.
That's just the
That's what
way
we
we
do.
that's the way we work.
And it's also I'm going to bring up processes and systems,
Sure.
which is such an exciting topic for most people to listen to. I didn't have a operations manual. I didn't have anything written down. It was
Yeah.
all up here forever.
Yeah.
But all of that needs to be out of your head and written down somewhere because heaven forbid something happens to you.
Sure.
And if you're a solopreneur, if you're a one person show, your business is your income.
Yeah.
Something
It's now
happens
done.
to
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
you're toast. So to me, I went to a business coaching I don't even know what to call it, mastermind, whatever. And it was a 2-year process. And we met quarterly in Connecticut. And then we had weekly and monthly calls and all that stuff. And
Okay.
my first visit to Connecticut was about operations. And I came home from that meeting and I hired my operations manager and we did an operations manual.
Nice.
And
Most people wouldn't. Most people would hear the information and not do anything with it. So
all
good
I kept
kudos to you.
thinking about was the other organizers I knew who had gone through breast cancer scares, health
Sure.
issues, not been able to work. And when that's your livelihood and you can't work, what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do for money,
Yeah.
And I did it much more I don't know if you want to call it selfish or not, but so I could go on a vacation.
Sure. I don't think
That
that's
was the
selfish.
real goal.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, if I do this, I can actually leave
Yeah.
and not be on my phone or email 24/7 because your business never sleeps, right? And so I did it so I could take a real vacation. And 2 or 3 years later is when I went into the ICU with
Wow.
pancreatitis from gallstones.
Wow.
And I was out of commission, unable to work or do anything. Like I couldn't
Sure.
even send an email for at least 6 months.
Wow.
And my
6 months.
operations manager and my team ran my business and kept my business going the whole time
Wow. So
because
so
they
so
had all of it in a book.
yeah.
They knew exactly what to do. I had payroll put into place. I had scheduling put into place. Um, what do we say to a client? How do you do a client consultation? And before that, and I'm not going to lie, this is a huge, huge, huge lesson. And you can call it a mistake, whatever you want. I was a control enthusiast,
Okay.
even more so than I am now.
Okay.
Very, no, I'm the only one who can do it. So that, P.S., God had been telling me over the years many, many, many times. In fact, he even told me through a client
Mhm.
who's a minister, and she said, I'm just going to share something with you. I hear messages from God, and he's telling me that if you don't take a break, you're going to wind up in the hospital. And 6 months later, I was in the hospital.
There you were. It's amazing how the Lord works, isn't it?
But I sent you a helicopter and I sent you a boat.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
Big neon sign flashing is what I need, apparently. So when I got put into the ICU and then I got out maybe I was in all things I missed. I went in on Halloween. Yeah,
Wow.
tomorrow's my anniversary, 2020.
Wow.
Um, I got out after Christmas, and a week later, my dad died.
Wow.
Yeah, I got to see him before he died. We all
Oh,
got to celebrate, and he
yeah.
got to see that I was going to be okay,
Yeah.
which he was probably waiting for that to
Yeah.
go. But that taught me you don't have to run your business, you don't have to be there every day, you don't have to be in charge of the marketing or the sales or the scheduling or the invoicing or anything.
I love that.
You have it right. If you've got the right people in place and the right systems in place, you can go on vacation, hopefully, is what you get to do.
Yeah. And it's not, hopefully no one else is going to have, a traumatic ICU experience. You never
Yeah,
know. You never know. But it's just the idea of I'm going to take a day off. Maybe
yeah,
not even a vacation. I'm just going
yeah,
to take the day. I'm going to allow myself to be sick.
yeah,
I'm going to allow myself to go to my kids' thing. I'm going to allow myself to go on a date. I'm going to allow
yeah,
myself to go to a movie or go to a show, or travel.
yeah.
I love that. I actually was having lunch with a guy today. He's opening a gym here in the Jefferson area, and he was just we were talking, and he was asking some advice, and I said I don't have a lot of advice to give in the gym space. I like working out at
Right,
the gym, but I can tell you things that I've not done well, and one of them was not systems. We did not implement enough systems early on in our business, and it
right.
hurt us.
Yeah,
And so for us, we started implementing systems, and it was a God thing.
yeah,
We're a few years into business, started implementing a lot of systems, systematizing the way that we answer the phones, the way that we follow up with customers, our operations manual, kind of cradle to
yeah,
grave. How do we handle a customer in the business?
right.
And a few months later, we found out about my son Noah's diagnosis. He has trisomy
Mhm.
13 or had trisomy 13. And that took us on a journey for 6 months of me kind of being in and out of the office of, we had multiple doctor's appointments, seemed like every week, especially as
Sure.
we got closer to his diagnosis. And then once he came and passed, I spent a significant amount of time away from the business. That business does not survive without the people that we had. We had amazing people, and we still do,
Yep.
and the systems that
Yep.
we put in place. And so I was sharing with my new friend today, and I said, you either have a high paying job or you have an asset. And if you
Mhm.
can put your mentality into an asset, you got to create systems because it has to be duplicable. You
Yep.
have to be able to scale it past yourself. If not, that's fine. You have a job. You do
Yep.
not have a business. And
So
you
true.
just need to acknowledge that and understand that it's
Right.
very different.
Yeah. And I don't think anybody wants to do it.
Sure.
I didn't. I didn't want to sit down and write an operations manual. Ugh, that's no
Sure.
fun. But it's so important. And even if you think you're never going to need it, it's just so important. And it also really clarifies a lot for your people.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't realize how many questions they had about how the heck we do our job until we were able, and then they came up with some awesome ideas to help us even further. And now
Sure.
we have, I work with a coach and she recommended I send out a questionnaire to my clients.
Nice.
And until I get the answers back, I don't even have a phone call with them. I don't do an in-person consultation that might take 3 hours of my time and they may not hire me,
Sure.
So there's again, it's like it's always evolving, it's always changing, and
Yeah.
usually for the better.
Yeah.
And we just put into place a new technology last year that's saving us, I don't even know how many hours a week, 10 hours a week
Wow.
scheduling. It's the scheduling software.
That's fantastic.
Again, I asked a colleague, what do you use for scheduling? Most people use Google, shared Google calendars. I
Yeah.
knew that would not work for me. She goes, oh, there's a software that's designed for senior move managers.
I love that.
Well, I'm
There
not
you
a
go.
senior move manager, but I do everything they do. And so we're using it and it's affordable and it's like the best thing ever.
I love that.
And it does multiple things. And so, yeah, I think it's always about being really open, asking questions to multiple people, finding the right fit for you. Sometimes there's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah,
We used a lot of bad scheduling
sure.
apps.
Yeah.
It did not work at
We've
all
been
for
through some
me.
bad software too. Yeah, I got
Yeah,
you. We've been
I
through some bad
mean,
software.
I don't want to spend my valuable time uh learning to be a software designer, or when I was doing a webinar, how to do audio and visual and put everything into these, I don't know,
Sure.
an IT expert,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah.
When I wrote my book, I didn't want to learn how to be an editor or
Tell me about your book. What book did you write? What's it about? How can people get it?
I think it came out about 6 or 7 years ago. It's called A Simplified Life, and it is real client stories, but I kept it anonymous.
Okay.
I changed their names, and it's any type of situation we've ever come across as an organizer and how to do it. So, oh, bless you.
Thank you very much.
That was the most demure sneeze I've ever seen. Um, so for instance, two households merging into one when people
Okay.
get married,
Okay.
right? So I told a story in that chapter all about saving a marriage,
Nice.
or the gentleman that we worked with who had lived in his house for 60 years that we moved into assisted living,
Cool.
and how that process works and how hard it is for a lot of people to ask for help.
Sure.
So it's really a way for me to try to help more people because I don't want to only be able to help people who live in North Georgia
Yeah.
or in the metro Atlanta area. So that's why I love trying to educate and inform in any way I can. And the book was a great way for me to do more public speaking. And that's
Cool.
another way for me to just get out tips and tools and how to help people um in as many places as I possibly can.
Sure. I love
Yeah.
that. Well, Heather, I appreciate your time. We're kind of coming to the end of what I've got you booked for, and I'll be respectful of your time. Thank you
Thank
very much for the
you.
wisdom that you've been sharing and the feedback you've been sharing. I love to end on two questions.
Okay.
Number one, outside of your book, definitely want to get your book in everybody's hand, but if you could get one book in every business owner's hand, what book would you give them?
Okay, so I prepared.
Look at that.
The Generosity Mindset by John Ray. It's a very recent book. I love John Ray. He's fantastic. It is all about valuing your business properly to attract the right clients so that you can continue to actually do what you're passionate about
I love that.
and stop undervaluing yourself. And yeah, it's almost like a matchmaking book.
Cool.
It's
I
really
like it.
cool.
Well, I will definitely put that in the show notes. And
Thank
then the
you.
last question, outside of the advice that you've already shared, is there a piece of advice that you wish you would have had 10 years ago?
Wow. Yes.
Okay. And what would
There's a
that
lot of
be?
things,
What would
but
that be?
um I wish I would have spent more time asking my dad how to
Okay.
run a successful business before he passed away.
Okay.
Both of my brothers worked for him. And I am now, just now, after 14 years, I am meeting with my brothers on a regular basis, and they
Cool.
are helping me learn how to run a business
I love that.
because I don't have a clue
Yeah.
just by the seat of my pants. And a lot of it has to do with really being aware of your finances.
Sure.
And it's something that I just always said, it doesn't matter. There's money in the bank at the end of each month, but really having a good handle on that is what they're helping me with and how to look at the QuickBooks reports
Sure.
and
I love that.
figure out what makes sense so that I can grow properly at a pace that makes sense for me.
Sure. I think that's an excellent piece of advice. I think we can all take away from that, that we need to surround ourselves with good people like you're doing, that we need
Yeah.
to learn that we're never the smartest person in the room. We always have ways to learn and to grow and to improve. And cash is king. And you've got to understand your cash flow in your business. It doesn't matter how fast your revenue's growing. If you're not keeping money in your bank, you're not managing the levers at which you're driving the growth and your budgets. Do you have a budget? Are you staying on budget? All of those things you can definitely get in a bind very, very quickly. So, Heather, thank you so much for sharing. Everybody, thank you for being a part of Market Mavericks here today. We'll see you soon. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Market Mavericks. We hope you're walking away inspired and ready to take your own adventure to the next level. Don't forget to follow the show to keep up with our latest episodes. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe, share it with others who could benefit. And hey, if you know a market maverick who has a story that needs to be heard, please drop their name in the comments. We would love to bring their insights to the show. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and leading with purpose.